A mess here with all of the warnings going on. That's our tornado warning here up to the north. Severe thunderstorm warnings north of that tornado warning. Again, some of that's going to get extended into Montgomery County here in the next few minutes, back into the rest of Jersey County, going into parts of Lincoln County. We still have severe weather. That cell that's out just east of Warrenton, Lance is on his way to that right now. That's starting to look like it's spinning a little bit. We've also had a couple more cells, one popping up just south of Wentzville, another popping up over, it looked like Darden Prairie, and now that's all the way into St. Peter's. And then you've got these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cells down to our southwest along 44. All of these are working into an environment that has us extremely concerned this evening for about the next 2 to 4 hours, maybe even only 2 to 3 hours. But it has us extremely concerned because the environment that these storms are pushing into is an environment that is conducive to seeing significant severe weather. And when we say significant severe weather, more than just the usual quarter-size hail or 60-mile-per-hour wind gust here or there. It's the potential for winds up to 70 miles per hour. It's the potential for longer track, stronger tornadoes. It's the potential that we see hail up to the size of baseballs. We haven't had a lot of reports so far, but these storms coming in now are the ones that have the environment that's favorable to work with to create that kind of severe weather. That's why we need you to pay attention this evening. That's why we're still here. The one warning now, really that tornado warning, focused on the area here that's going into southern portions of Macoupin County. South at this point of Carlinville is where that circulation looks like it's going to go. But you can clearly see this thing just kind of spinning right here as it's moving off to the east. And Gary, that's a pretty impressive cell, I would say, as it's spinning here off to the east and northeast. We again put that velocity on here. You look at the winds with it, and I don't know that we've had anything that looked quite as impressive as what we're seeing there out of any storm that we've had today. So Shipman, you have, it should be right in your neighborhood right now. It should be right by the school right now. So we want you in your safe place and stay there for a good 10 or 15 minutes until this storm goes by. That is the most impressive storm that we have at the moment on the radar screen, at least any one of the storms that's capable of producing a tornado. That's the best circulation. We're still watching these other storms. There's hail, there's a lot of rain. We're having a lot of water problems with some of these storms too, runoff, drainage issues. You folks out in St. Charles, we're going up on 370 here. Going from St. Louis County over and across by Lakeside 370. Some torrential rain in that area right now, maybe some small hail too. The other cell popping up over Darden Prairie now. And then we look back here. This one is starting to show some signs of maybe doing a little rotation, getting a little spin here as it's exiting the Warrenton area, pushing into the Wright City area and heading at this point close, it looks like, to Forestell in the next few minutes. Not overly impressive on the radar wind signature, but we are starting to see at least the hint there that that thing is starting to maybe rotate a little bit. And Lance is going to have more on that coming up in a few minutes when we join him back out there. Again, our tornado warning, southern portions of Macoupin County, that's the area of greatest concern. You're looking right now at Wright City, 70 west at Wright City. So that matches up pretty much with this cell here and the fact that there is torrential rain. Keep in mind, 70 is abysmal travel on a good, bright, dry, sunny day because this is all a construction zone out here. All the way, once you get from Wentzville, pretty much all the way to Kansas City. So poor drainage area and having storms, and you got the barriers up on the side of the road. There's no place, you know, to maneuver and such. So it's a mess. Want to look at those storms down to the southwest. No tornado warnings on them at this point, but again, very intense, showing the hail cores in here. These are the storms where we think they have the capability of producing some of that larger hail as we go through the evening. They are certainly going to be rotating, and that potential, Gary, that we could very well see something spin out of these storms. So be paying attention, be ready to act tonight as these storms continue to push through.
Yeah, other than that one you showed to the north, these are the ones that are showing the signs. And honestly, you would not have expected the one to the north. That just kind of goes to show you how strange the atmosphere is today and how volatile it is, because as those storms kind of merge, we talked about, hey, I think there's going to be more of a flash flood threat, but as that warm front has lifted northward and really warmed us up throughout the day in a spot where we've seen temps in the 60s, it's rained all morning to the north in Macoupin County, and then you deal with probably the most clear-cut tornado rotation that we've seen so far on the radar. Now, we've had plenty of tornado warnings. That doesn't mean we've seen the fruition of it, but now these storms are moving in a very favorable environment for not only the twisting of the wind, but also the fact that we've seen hail core growth. Now, not quite as much in Gerald, although I have seen a little bit more. You can see where some of this lightning is starting to pick up just a little bit as well as we focus on where this is so far in Gerald here, as we continue to look at what's going on here right on north of 50. That's where the core of the hail is. Now, and from a standpoint of what's going on at the moment here north of St. James into Oak Hill, there's also pretty significant hail near Bourbon. This is where I would look at maybe south of the interstate where you're looking at some pretty significant hail. Now, this is all part of a severe thunderstorm warning that's in place, and also we're looking at just the core of how these storms are set up and really what's going on, because as we continue to look at another severe thunderstorm warning here that's for Franklin and Jefferson County, that's all part of where these storms are starting to work their way in. You'll see how that kind of settles in, and you can see where that goes just almost fully into just on the outside of St. Louis County. And you can see where this is all part of merging of where these cells are and what this is going to do. And I think it's important to note that you start to see where some of these areas inside this part of the storm structure where, yeah, the wind may be working its way in here. It may be starting to inflow here, and we may start to see the twisting of the wind, and I'll show that radar product in a second. But the fact that all these storms are kind of pushing themselves together, there are going to be one of two things. If we thought it's going to be a flash flood threat, that's not out of the question either. But also, we're going to see the potential for, these are areas that have not really been worked over from storms. That's why it's been in the 80s. So there's a lot of storm fuel. So these storms continue to grow in that fashion. And really, as I kind of pull this back out just a little bit, I want to pull this out and see if we can find any spots that are maybe obviously rotating or just a little bit, to see if we can find out where some storm structure is, at least at this point here.
And we got new warnings,
yeah,
Gary.
I see that.
Got quite a few here.
Yeah, multiple warnings.
It's all severe thunderstorm warnings, but they're trying to tie them up by individual storm, and it's getting messy.
Oh yeah.
Well, this is a new one for St. Charles, St. Louis County, Montgomery County, Madison County, Macoupin County, Jersey County, Fayette, Bond, and Calhoun counties in Illinois. So that is a long.
That's the longest severe thunderstorm warning I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think so. Basically, yeah, it is. This whole warning rate. Whoops. Let me draw that back. Where is that? This whole. Click this. Look at that. That there, all the way over to here, and then up to here. So back there, we got all of this. And that's kind of around. This is all for these two cells here, especially the one that right now is out just around O'Fallon at this point. So, I mean, this is, look at the number of warnings. We still have our tornado warning. We still have a circulation around Shipman, and that was our biggest concern because that's where the best rotation is. It's now shifting east of Shipman, and that has a pretty good circulation on it. But the severe thunderstorm warnings, and all of these are severe thunderstorm warnings with a tornado possible, and that includes for these storms down here in Crawford, Washington, Franklin County, and then extending it eastbound into Jefferson County. And this storm here that's just about to come into Union right now, that has some big hail with it. And then the cells that are out here into St. Charles County, they have gone up very quickly. Okay, there's a storm tracker out in Wentzville, and you can see what those storms look like here. That's off to the west of Wentzville. And you can see the storms that just bubbled up here. The one that was over St. Peter's, Lakeside 370, that's now starting to move into St. Louis County and also into eastern portions of St. Charles County. plus this cell that's going up here from Darton Prairie up into O'Fallon, and that's out along Bryan Road. That is strengthening quickly. So the warning for that goes all the way over to the east now. They just extended that through Madison County. And we're getting a lot of pictures of quarter-size hail out of Warrenton right now. Also, Highway K and Fisey Road out there in St. Charles County. Half-inch hail being reported there right now. That's not severe, but still strong.
Yeah, pretty decent signature from Sullivan to Bourbon. I know it's not a severe, it's a severe thunderstorm warning right now, but let's look at this scan over the last few minutes. Look how it's really started to intensify. To be honest with you, right here, this is where, I know this is a severe thunderstorm warning now south of Sullivan, but this is a spot I'd really watch just because of the way that we've started to see this really start to tighten up. That's one of the few spots, especially the way that this storm structure is set up, where we're going to watch out for that potential, Scott. I think that's one of the ones that, obviously you mentioned the possibility of a tornado is there from a standpoint, but watching how this has evolved, watch this over the last few minutes where
there it is, this tornado warning.
I mean, that's a clear-cut signature right there.
Yeah.
So that's our next tornado warning. That is including obviously Hillsborough, Cedar Hill, Barnhart, Festus, really anywhere to the river, right?
Yeah, it goes all the way to the Mississippi,
That
Jefferson
looks like a
County.
clear-cut signature.
Yeah, northern Washington County, southeastern portions of Franklin County. That's a very, very clear-cut signature there. And again, like you were saying just a second ago, when we're looking at that, you don't get that kind of rotation showing up like that when it's not. And it's in the exact right place, too, lining up with the reflectivity.
Right, and I think from a standpoint of, as we track this for you as well, that's where I want to take you here as we kind of zoom in just a little bit here. I'll point that out because now we can kind of give us an idea here. And this is why we've talked about this specifically here with this tornado warning. I know it's going to load for me here and go to a couple other things first, but this is the area that's ripe for this type of environment. That's why we've seen those storms that go through where you're starting to see this, right? This is a classic signature. Now we've started to see this inflow here. And even before I showed you where this was, that's where we're starting to see the significance of this, right? Because we have this inflow. These are the types of storm structures that are they're going to be in strength and coverage and intensity. Watch the inflow here. You can really see where this is, right? That's where we have the first twisting of the wind. And then you have the other one here that is right about here. That's where we have the potential. And to be honest with you, this looks like a pretty clear-cut tornado from Caseyville to Pea Ridge, right along 185. And I want to pull this back out just a little bit here because as I scan a little bit further here, I'm going to pull this back out so I can show you some of the storm structure, and I want to track this for you because I really want you to get ahead of this thing here, especially from right here, because I do believe this is a tornado. Even though we don't have a confirmation, I have no reason to believe this is not a tornado here and at this point. And, you know, I believe as this thing is tracking, if you're in Richwoods, all the way from Cedar Hill to Festus, right across the river, this is where I want you to take that pretty seriously here. So from Hillsborough, this is going to be about 7:09. I've gone out ahead of things, and I want to make sure that we're tracking that from a standpoint of how fast it's going. And I would bet that we are still looking at about 50 miles an hour, but I want to make sure that we have not changed our timing. Yeah, 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, I think that's what we're sticking with.
I want to make sure that my properties on this still say 50. Yeah, because it says 35, and I don't like that. So I want to make sure that we are dialed in correctly here. So this is where we are in terms of our timing. So this is an updated timing here from Hillsborough 6:57. So I gave you an extra few minutes here, and I want to make sure that you guys are ahead of the game because most recent radar scan, let's look at this from a most recent radar scan. This thing is really starting to pick up here from Caseyville to Pea Ridge. And I want to zoom in just a little bit. If you're in Richwoods, if you're in right from Fletcher, right up 47, I want to go specifically where I think this storm is, and let's zoom into street level here because to be honest with you, this is where I think the circulation is right north of Pea Ridge on 185 here.
Okay, Gary, your mic cut off.
They're dead.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they're not dead, but there's something. Yeah, batteries are dying. I'll change them.
Okay. All right. Well, I got you. I'm looking here at the debris tracker, and while it's not clear in this area, there is some sort of we call this a correlation coefficient. There is a little bit of a drop out there, and if we go back just a little bit, it's like Gary said. You know, there's some confidence here that this one might be the one that is actually on the ground for, you know, we've been through a lot with tornado warnings and no reports of anything. But this, At least it's got the hint of it. That's for sure. I can't tell you for sure, but that is a very tight couplet right there. And that is headed right over into northern portions of northern portions of Washington County and heading over into Jefferson County. I think the circulation's probably going to ride at Highway 47. It'll probably ride right here on the Franklin and Washington County line, and then this is the Jefferson County line. Jefferson County, Washington County, Jefferson County, and Franklin County there. It's probably going to ride right along that line as it moves mainly to the east. So DeSoto, y'all got out of school early today, ahead of the weather, and so did a lot of the school districts down here in Jefferson County. Y'all are in the path of this. This would go straight off to the east. Hillsborough, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, you're kind of at the top of it. Unless this storm turns northeastbound, I don't think you would be impacted by the tornado, but we will get you a track on this. And, just for the circulation part of this. And we're kind of taking it east-northeast. And we may even end up across the river. But Berry School, Brown School, Fletcher, Hillsborough, Hematite. All right, the Sandy School, Our Lady School, Festus, Peevely. All right, you're getting it all the way over here. This is going to impact 55 eventually. It's going to impact 55 eventually. This one's wound up. It looks like you got about a 2-inch hail out of here, too. What does that tell me? It's almost 3-inch hail showing up on the radar screen right now. So that's not necessarily the size that's reaching the ground, but I think we're probably getting up there. 1 1/4-inch hail out in O'Fallon, Missouri. All right, so we got that. So that's back to that storm. This one's the one that really kind of scares us here at the moment because this is a significant circulation showing up there. And Gary, I think as it tracks off to the east here, we got to have everybody in their safe place.
Yeah,
and look,
this is, especially when you look at the debris tracker. Like you said, it's not a clear-cut signature that's saying, "Hey, this is exactly what this is." But the fact that this shows where some of this inflow in, everything else in the red, let's just, for lack of a better term, this is all the rain that it's picked up, right? But this is all the other debris. So correlation coefficient is a different product of the radar that's able to tell exactly what's in the storm by the size and particulate matter, and it knows what the rain looks like. That's probably the solid red. And then you see all the other stuff. That could be lofted debris. Now, we don't have confirmation of that. Sometimes with each radar scan, that may become more of a tight couplet. We're just seeing some oddities, and that's what we always look at for here in terms of that. So the specifics, to be honest with you, and we look at this from a pure velocity standpoint. And here's one of the reasons, obviously, you can see exactly where this is and what's going on. And one of the reasons that we purely look at it from this perspective, as we're talking about the specifics here, is simply because of the significance of the tight rotation of where this wind is. I'm going to flash this back on and I'll show you the progression of it here really quickly here, because you have the velocity product that's toward, that's away from the radar. You'll see that here. Now, not as much of a signature right there, but I still think you're looking at that as the storm structure continues to work its way closer to Rich Woods. That's where the hail would be. That's where we're starting to see the inflow of wind as we focus back on this here. Here's what I wanted to point out, because you're starting to see some of these brighter colors, this is where we look at this from a standpoint of, hey, how do we know exactly where these tight couplets are? Well, look at this from this standpoint. The darker, these lighter shades of red, that's 42 miles an hour. That's away from the radar. Let's look at one side of it here where it's more bright on the other side, and that's also 55 miles an hour. So that tight rotation where it's on both sides, the wind is on both sides on a very high aspect, that's what we're looking for in terms of the radar. So when we find those tight areas of rotation, that's why we really want you to make sure you take this one seriously, because to be honest with you, that's what we're looking at for as we jump back and forth here. That's where we want to track this for you here from across from Fletcher here. And now that we got this moving at about 50 miles an hour, and I know you're, as we continue to monitor this specific area, and let's take a look at the debris to see if that's popping up for us as well. And like I said, you're still, to be honest with you, right about here. I don't think that's out of the question, Scott. And I know they're not confirming that. You'll see that, if just as a reminder, if you're not following along from a standpoint of the radar, that would be on the pink side that shows up. But if you're in Hillsborough, certainly in Rich Woods, this is an area I'd like you to be in a safe place in the next 15 minutes. And Scott, it looks like we're going to see more of this now at 6:41. multiple storms that are starting to take shape like this.
Yeah, and we've also seen some really large hail out here in St. Charles County. This storm going through O'Fallon dropped upwards of, it seemed like golf ball size hail, about 1¼ inch or so. So getting close to golf ball size hail, that potential's there. That includes up in the northern portions of St. Charles County too, up along the Orchard Farm area. So that's impressive hail that's ongoing there. New severe thunderstorm warning. This one for Franklin, Jefferson, St. Charles, and St. Louis County. So basically, just
$half size.
Yeah,
hail.
$half size hail. So that's for this part of the storm here. And we already had the warning on the northern part of the storm. So that's for the cell that's back here towards Washington, Missouri, that's coming in. Actually, these two cells, the one that's just southwest of Pacific and the one that's between Washington and Union. I know, it's hard today with all of the multitude of storms that are ongoing and trying to get all of these outlines. The Weather Service is really trying hard to not overlap and have multiple things going on, but it's bad. Here's new tornado warning for this storm that is now in the area around Cottleville. That's where we're seeing that circulation. And so that's
north of the airport too.
Yeah. So we'll get the camera up there here in a second. I think camera 20 is actually on Arnold right now. Let's look at the velocity here and see what we see there. Now, keeping in mind that this is radar indicated here, but that circulation is going to be somewhere in that general vicinity. It looks like I would put it, based on where they've done the warning, somewhere here. Well, it looks like not too far, right on the north side here. There's Veterans Memorial Parkway, so 70's right there. And you're going, that's Elm Point, so we're getting right into St. Charles here. This is your Lakeside 370's over here, so we're going around here. This is northern parts of St. Charles. Up there is Newtown. So that circulation's in here pretty close, just north of 70 on Zumbell Road is where that circulation would be. And that's pretty close to where our St. Charles camera is. So let's go see if we see anything on the St. Charles camera when that comes up. Tornado warning here for St. Charles County into part of St. Louis County. You're looking at it right now. Obviously, we see the pouring rain here, but I don't see anything. Gary, do you see anything scanning that looks suspicious?
No, not yet.
So it's probably, that's Zumbell, so it's probably right up Zumbell here, going up towards 370. And I will say that area that we were looking at with the correlation coefficient, the debris tracker farther to the south, that is an area that still looks rather impressive down there.
Still looks to be like the most clear-cut tornado that. Yeah.
Okay, Lance, what do you got out there?
Yeah, no, so I passed by that storm, the one that just went tornado warned. There was a distinct lowering on the backside of that cell. I haven't put it in chat yet, but it was a distinct lowering. It was not rotating from my vantage point. I couldn't tell. I had to zoom in a lot because I'm chasing southbound to catch up to that one that looks most impressive on radar. And so that one definitely had a rain-free lowering out of the backside of that cell, and then it really cranked up as it moved eastbound. So that new tornado warning is a result of that same area that I was looking at earlier, but again, zoomed in so tight that I couldn't tell for sure, but it was rain-free, and it was a distinct lowering out of the backside of it.
All right, thanks for that, Lance, and try to stay safe out there. This actually, I was saying this part of the storm had a circulation here, and it does, but you also look at this, and there's another kind of potential circulation here, and that's right along this. This is north of the airport, right along the Missouri River here, St. Charles County and St. Louis County. So that's in North St. Louis County for this tornado warning, which does stretch over into Madison County. So there's the potential we have something circulating here. There's the potential we have something circulating here. So two circulations possible out of that storm in an environment in which it's very favorable for storms to spin. 70 and 370 is what the camera shows you right now. And again, 70 at 370. This is in the St. Peters area. You're on the backside of this storm right now. And there's still a little more back to your west, but you're on the backside of the worst of that. I want to just look over here. The storm, the tornado warning has expired over towards Gillespie. Hello, miners. Everyone over there at Gillespie High School. It looks like that circulation that was there has eased just a little bit. As I look up from the Lincoln radar, it still shows something there, but it's not as distinct as it was earlier, but that's still, keep an eye on that. The severe thunderstorm warning still in effect for that. Tornado warning, the two spots in this cell, and Gary, I'll get you down into Jefferson County with that cell in just a minute. Here are the two spots where it looks like we have some potential circulations here with this. I think you got one potential in here, and you got one potential back here. So, you know, you've got two possibilities where we could have some spin in these storms. Now, because you see there's kind of a break between the two storms here. These are sort of two separate storms that are interacting with each other. They may be trying to merge. They may be trying to fight with each other. And we don't know if it's actually going to put down a tornado. We don't know at this point if there's any damage anywhere in here. We've not heard that. But as Lance said, he saw this storm and he saw the distinct lowering on the back side of that. And so that's another area to watch here. Going out of far northern portions of St. Louis County. This is north of the airport right now. And I'll look on, while you all are taking shelter here, because both of these circulations are heading towards Alton. And, you know, I'll give you a couple of time frames on this. Let me just get you out here. I'm going to do the first one. We're going to do this one. And we'll just go a short distance on that. All right, so this is that first circulation that's farther to the east, almost into West Alton. Alton at 6:52, it is now 6:47. Lovejoy Elementary, 6:54, over to the Lincoln School at 6:57. Rosewood Heights at 6:58. All right, got that one. Now let's go to this western circulation and take a look at what we got there and track that. So this is the one that's north of downtown St. Charles. You may get some of the same spots again here. This actually includes part of North St. Louis County. So if it stays on that track, Hazelwood West Middle School, Northwest Middle School, Cross Keys Middle School, Parker Road Elementary School, and Jamestown Elementary School, and then eventually it gets to West Alton. So up in far North County here, you're looking at the potential that that circulation could cause a problem there. So we need you in your safe place, as many walls between you and the outside as possible at this point. Lowest level, we're all wearing our shoes tonight. That's 70 and 94 that we just saw right there.